The Oscars are almost here, and I've got picks for you in every single category right now. Hello everybody, I'm Dan Murrell here with my picks for this year's Academy Awards. All of the talking and the punditry and the campaigning is done, and the only thing left is to reveal the winners, which we'll get on Sunday night. But before we get to the picks for this year's Oscars, I wouldn't feel right about talking about the Academy Awards if I didn't mention the passing of a multiple Academy Award nominee and winner, one of the best actors of his generation or any generation, and that's Gene Hackman. The news of his death broke just a couple days ago. There's still investigations going on as to the cause. He was found alongside his wife, Betsy Arakawa, in their home in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Gene Hackman was a 5-time Oscar nominee. He won 2 Academy Awards, one for Best Supporting Actor in Unforgiven and another for Best Actor in The French Connection. And he was in over half a dozen Best Picture nominees, including Unforgiven, Mississippi Burning, Reds, The Conversation, The French Connection, and Bonnie and Clyde. 2 of those movies won Best Picture. And I think it says a lot about Gene Hackman that some of his favorite roles weren't even the ones that he was the most award nominated for. I was introduced to him as Lex Luthor alongside Christopher Reeve in the Superman films. It's sad to think about the fact that they are both gone now. He was also fantastic in a small comedic role in Mel Brooks's Young Frankenstein. And when you look at the breadth of his career, you have movies like Crimson Tide, The Birdcage, The Firm, Hoosiers, The Poseidon Adventure, which is one of my favorite 70s disaster movies, and one of my favorite roles of his, which turned out to be one of his late career roles in The Royal Tenenbaums. I believe he should have been nominated for an Academy Award for that performance. Gene Hackman left an immense body of work behind while spending the last 2 decades of his life away from acting and away from the public eye. He leaves a legacy that any actor should aspire to, and his loss is a tremendous loss to the film community, as well as, of course, a loss to his friends, family, and loved ones. Gene Hackman, truly one of a kind and one of our greatest actors.
There's a line that I always wanted to say, top of the world, Ma, top of the world.
Let's move on now to this year's Academy Awards and my picks in every single category. And I have to say that I think that there are so many categories this year where it is just wide open. My confidence score is probably lower across the board this year. Usually by this time we have a pretty good idea of who's going to win Best Picture. It seems locked in, and a lot of the other categories are locked in too, but I think there are so many that are just really, some of them coin flips. So I'm going to give you who I would vote for if I were a member of the Academy, who I'm picking to win the Academy Award, and then one other nominee that I think you should be on the lookout for to potentially take that award. Usually I'd categorize that as an upset, but sometimes it's just the other person who's as likely to win. And let's start with the writing categories. We're going to go with Best Adapted Screenplay. The movie that I would vote for if I were in the Academy is Sing Sing. This is a really tough category. These are good movies that they nominated this year. But thinking back on it, I just think that script is the one that I responded to the most. I think that Conclave will win the Academy Award, and this is one of the categories where I'm pretty confident that Conclave is going to win. Although you should look out for A Complete Unknown. If I was going to pick a movie to upset, and again, I don't think that an upset is likely here, that would be the one. So Conclave is my one to pick Best Adapted Screenplay. Looking at Best Original Screenplay, I would vote for The Substance, and this, by the way, is a fantastic category this year. The Substance was my favorite movie of 2024, so that's the movie that I'd vote for. I think that Anora is going to win, but it's not a huge confidence score because of the competition. You have The Brutalist out there, you have Anora, and most people would say to look out for The Brutalist. I'm going to say look out for A Real Pain in this category. You have in A Real Pain a film that I think is going to win an Academy Award for acting. You also have a Hollywood star turned writer, and it is a very intensely personal film, a very emotional film. So I could see the Academy going that direction, but my pick in Best Original Screenplay is Anora. Let's look now at some of the best film categories that are not Best Picture, and we will start with Best International Film. If you'd asked me on the morning of nominations, I would say that Emilia Perez is a cinch to win this category, but so much has come out and so much has happened over the course of this long, it seems like forever since the nominations came out, that I actually am picking a different film. First of all, if I had a vote in the category, and again, I think it's a pretty strong category, honestly, Emilia Perez was my least favorite film that was nominated for Best International Film. I would vote for I'm Still Here. And while the smart money maybe is still on Emilia Perez, I just think the damage to that movie may be too deep. Plus, by the way, I'm Still Here is a really, really good film. So I am predicting that I'm Still Here will win the Academy Award for Best International Film. Although, of course, the movie you should look out for is Emilia Perez, which this is one of those maybe coin flip categories. I still think it has a very good chance of winning. In the Best Animated Film category, I would vote for The Wild Robot. And I think maybe a month ago, I would be much more confident in my pick to have The Wild Robot win the Academy Award. I'm still thinking that it's going to win. I think that The Wild Robot will win the Academy Award for Best Animated Film, but honestly, I think it's about a 60-40 chance with Flow, a very serious contender. I would not be shocked if Flow won the Academy Award here. I know that a lot of people are picking it. I think that, I really did consider this for quite a while, but I'm sticking with The Wild Robot, but Flow is the one to look out for because it could very well come in and take that Oscar. And then finally, in the Best Documentary category, I would vote for No Other Land, which I was finally able to see. The hoops I had to jump through in order to see this film were pretty ridiculous. And as far as picking who's going to win, this was a very interesting question for me. Because in case you don't know, No Other Land is a documentary that is made by a team of Israeli and Palestinian filmmakers that is set in the West Bank and takes a look at a particular part of the West Bank that was increasingly being taken over by Israeli settlers, by the Israeli military for training grounds. And it is about the displacement of the people that lived in these towns. And this is something that is a very sensitive issue. It's a topic that most people don't want to openly discuss for fear of it becoming a hot button issue, even more so than it already is, for fear of stirring controversy. And No Other Land, despite being a leading contender for the Academy Award for Best Documentary, doesn't even have distribution here in the United States. The filmmakers have been setting up their own screenings. And as I said, it was difficult for me to even find this movie in order to watch it. And I have watched every single nominee so that I could pick the movie that I truly believed should win. Having seen all the documentary nominees, I think that, at least for me, No Other Land easily was the best out of the bunch. And they're not bad movies, but if you're talking about something that did what documentaries I think should do, which is to show you a side of a story that you maybe haven't seen, to make you ask questions and confront issues that might be difficult to confront, I'm not sure that the Academy wants to confront this head on. I worry that the Academy is worried that the winners, if they give it to this movie, are going to say something controversial, which they probably will, because again, this is something that is controversial by its very nature, that is going to cause furor and uproar. And I wonder if people are going to say, well, we're scared of it. We don't want it to derail the show. And I also just wonder if it is too sensitive for them to consider voting for. Maybe it's the idealist in me, but I'm picking No Other Land to win Best Documentary, because I think that it is an extremely powerful film. The movie to look out for, I think, here would be Porcelain War, which is set in Ukraine, and it would be the second consecutive Best Documentary winner that takes on the war in Ukraine, which is a much less controversial topic if you're thinking about movies that you're going to give an Academy Award to. And I think that it's a fine documentary, and it's certainly an important issue. But I am, perhaps foolishly or idealistically or whatever you want to call it, going to say that the Academy will recognize what No Other Land is trying to say and say, we understand that this might be difficult to face and there might be some tough conversations to have, but we're going to recognize the work that was done here. Now let's move on to what I call the Oscar pool busters, or sometimes the Oscar pool makers for a lot of people, which are the short categories. And even having seen all of the shorts, it's still a toss-up. There's no telling which way the Academy is going to go in any of these, and I very rarely, if ever, have swept all three, so I'm just going to kind of go with my best guess. And we'll start with the Best Animated Short category. The short that I would vote for is called Wander to Wonder, which is an absolutely twisted short that I would watch a full-length feature of in a second. I thought that this was a brilliant idea, and I hope that it's recognized by the Academy. The one that I'm picking to win is called Magic Candies, which is also a very good short, but it's much more tug on the heartstrings, which often seem to be the shorts that win in this category. And the one that I'm saying to look out for is a short called Yuck, which is very much in the same vein as Magic Candies. It's a lot cuter, and because it's cuter, I almost picked it to win because as I learned last year with a short that I didn't really care about, that I thought was very cheap, empty sentiment, but that it still won, it's not always about necessarily the deepest message when it comes to these animated shorts. Sometimes it's the one that people just walk away feeling the best about. So this is really a toss-up, but I'm going with Magic Candies in the best animated short category. The best documentary short category is also difficult because often the winners in this one in the live action category are the ones that are the most about what they're talking about, if that makes sense. I would vote for one called I Am Ready, Warden, which is about a man who committed a murder, whose clemency has run out and is about to be executed. He's on death row, and we also follow the family of the man that's murdered. I thought it was a very powerful short. The one that I'm picking to win is one called Incident, which is essentially a combination of closed-circuit TV footage as well as police cam body footage about a police shooting that happened several years ago in Chicago. It didn't go as deep as some of the other documentary shorts, but it is the most confrontational and in your face about what it's about. And sometimes that is the one that's going to take the Academy Award. So that's the one I'm picking to win. Although the one I'm saying to look out for here is I Am Ready, Warden, because I think that one could also very easily take it. I think it's got the most humanity in it, and sometimes that is what sways voters. And then finally, in the best live action short category, the one that I would vote for is called The Last Ranger, which is set in South Africa. It's during the COVID-19 pandemic. It's about rangers or game wardens who are out to protect wildlife on the different reserves in Africa. And I thought that it was a fantastic short, fascinating, and really a great lead performance from one of the young actors, really all of the actors. The one I'm picking is called Aline, which could also be read as Alien. The way that I heard it described is it's called Aline because oftentimes when you are trying to get citizenship in the United States, you have a lien on life, but you're also considered to be an alien. I thought that it was a good short, and again takes on something very controversial and urgent in a lot of people's lives. And again, it is the most direct about what it's about. And that's why I think that it is going to take it, because it's very timely. But again, who knows which way they're going to go with it. The one that I'd look out for is one called The Man Who Could Not Remain Silent, which basically confronts standing up to authority figures, the military, etc. Again, people might say that that is the most urgent and the most of its time. You never really know what voters are going to say, but Aline is my pick for the best live action short. Let's move on now to some of the craft categories, and we'll start with best cinematography. In this category, I would vote for Nosferatu, which I thought was an absolutely stunning film. The movie that I think will win is The Brutalist, which had incredible cinematography. This is a very strong category as well this year. And the movie to look out for, I think, is Dune Part 2, just because that was also a stunning film. The Brutalist, I think, though, with the whole VistaVision thing and everything else, may well have the edge in this category. Moving on to Best Visual Effects, the movie that I would vote for is Dune Part 2. The movie that I think is going to win is Dune Part 2. I'm fairly confident in this prediction. I guess the one to look out for, and this is going to be a trend in the technical categories, is if the Academy really fell in love with Wicked and wanted to vote for it across the board when it comes to the craft behind it, then I could see it coming in. But I think that Dune Part 2 has a pretty good lock on this category. As far as Best Costume Design, I would actually vote for Wicked because I thought that the craft behind the costumes themselves was very good. I think that Wicked is going to win the Academy Award for Best Costume Design. If you're going to look out for one movie, I think that Conclave could be it because of all the, robes and everything with the Vatican, etc., the ornate nature of the costumes in that film. When we go to Best Sound, which is our next category, I would vote for Dune Part 2. I think that Dune Part 2 is going to win. I could see the Academy saying, all right, you know what, let's vote for Wicked because of the music and everything else. I could also see a complete unknown winning in this category. But I'm going to pick Dune Part 2 because I think that was a soundscape unlike any of the other nominees. This was another really difficult category to choose, Best Editing. I would vote for The Brutalist, which a lot of people might think is hilarious considering that it is, I think, the longest out of the Best Picture nominees by quite a bit. But I think that the editing in the film was so powerfully done, the juxtaposition of shots with the music and everything else. Conclave, I think, is going to win the Academy Award because I think when you think of editing, all of the cuts between the different scenes, and I just feel that the Academy is going to look at Conclave and say that was the best edited picture of the year. The movie to look out for, I think, could be Anora because it's so chaotic. The film itself is so chaotic. There's such a rhythm to it. And so the Academy may look at that and say, well, yeah, I think Anora had maybe the most effective editing, but Conclave is my pick to win Best Editing. For Best Production Design, I would vote for Wicked. I thought that was some incredible production design, a lot of it practical production design as well. I think that Wicked will win the Academy Award. The movie to look out for, I'd say here, is The Brutalist, because I could see a lot of Academy members saying, well, it's a movie about architecture. The production design was such a key component, not just to the look of the movie, but also to the plot of the movie. And honestly, I don't think you have to squint too hard to see it going that way, but I'm going to go with Wicked here. For Best Makeup and Hairstyling, I would vote for The Substance. I think that The Substance is going to win because, again, it's not just great makeup and hairstyling, it's how it is used in the film, and it's used so effectively in the movie. The movie to look out for, I think, here is Wicked, because sometimes the Academy looks for the most makeup and hairstyling instead of the best makeup and hairstyling. And so if that were the case, then I think Wicked could take the Oscar. We have a lot more Oscar picks to get to, but before we do, I want to thank the sponsor for this video. This episode's brought to you by Bird Dogs. When you think about dress pants, you probably think about the same things I do. Stiff, scratchy material and an uncomfortable fit that leaves you desperate to change into anything else as soon as you get home. But allow me to introduce you to the dress pants you'll want to wear all day with Bird Dogs. Bird Dogs makes pants that don't just look good for any occasion, they're comfortable enough to wear anytime you want. I went to a semi-formal gathering last week where I felt like I needed to dress up a little bit, and I wore Bird Dog pants for the first time and was surprised, not just at how comfortable I was, but by the fact that I wore the pants for the rest of the day. They're super stretchy and soft with a built-in liner that offers fit and comfort, and they also fit well because I could choose my own custom waist and length, and that's big for me as someone who's often between standard sizes. I'd absolutely recommend these pants if you're looking for a great pair of dress pants or pants you can wear whenever you want. Plus, if you use my code Dan right now at birddogs.com, you're going to get a free hat, and I love hats. Also, Bird Dogs doesn't just make pants and shorts, they also have things like the classic quarter zip, which is also really soft and comes with its own built-in liner. It's a great item to add to my wardrobe as we begin the transition into spring, and jackets aren't always the best option. And don't forget, for a limited time, our listeners get a free hat with any order when you use code Dan at birddogs.com. Get their best-selling hat completely free when you use code Dan at birddogs.com. And when you order, make sure to support the show and tell them that I sent you. Let's look now at Best Original Score, another really difficult category to pick. I would vote for The Brutalist. I love the score for this film, and it starts out so early. The score really gets this movie started on one of the most memorable notes and memorable movie moments of the year. I think The Brutalist is going to win just because the score stands out so much, but look out for Conclave because the music is also so crucial to Conclave. I could see Wicked winning here too if people just think about the songs as well as being included in the score. That's not true. That's not how it works. But again, that doesn't necessarily always stop the Academy voters. But The Brutalist is my pick in the Best Original Score category. And then looking at the Best Original Song category, this is a first, I think, in any Oscar video. I would actually abstain from voting because I don't really like any of the nominees this year. They're not terrible, but I listened to all of the songs and I was like, I don't really hear one that I would enthusiastically say, yes, this should win the Academy Award. So I would abstain in this category. This is another one, though, where we've had a frontrunner for so long, which is El Mal from Emilia Perez. The smart money says that you should probably still take it, but I think the backlash may have affected the film just enough for the Academy to award Diane Warren with her first competitive Oscar and give it to The Journey from the 688. Again, I think this is a coin flip. Most people, I think, are probably going to predict El Mal, and this is one of my lowest confidence things, but I'm just kind of banking on the fact that the Emilia Perez backlash may have had a significant impact. That's why I also picked I'm Still Here to win Best International Feature. And so in that case, I think that a lot of Academy voters looking for who to vote for may say, well, you know what? even though she got an honorary Academy Award not that long ago. Let's get Diane Warren that competitive Oscar for the first time. All right, we've got the craft and technical categories in the rear view. Let's take a look now at the 4 major acting categories. I mentioned earlier that the huge backlash and catastrophe really around Emilia Perez, I think, is going to affect some Oscar votes. The real question is, will that affect the race in Best Supporting Actress? I would still vote for, even though I have major problems with Emilia Perez and don't really think the movie's that good, I'd still vote for Zoe Saldana, and I think that the Academy still will too. She's the one person who I think is going to be immune from what happened to everything else with the movie, because she's not really connected to the rest of it. Jacques Audiard and Carlos Sofia Gascon have kind of been the subjects of the other controversies and backlash, etc. But Zoe Saldana's performance, I think, is still very, very good. That was really the one takeaway I had from the movie. And I think that there's still going to be just enough there for her to win the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress. Although I think you have to look out for, a lot of people might say Ariana Grande. I'm going to say you have to look out for Isabella Rossellini in this category. Some of the older Academy members specifically might have voted for her here. And really, Monica Barbaro isn't out of the question for a complete unknown. But I'm going to stick with Zoe Saldana and say that she's going to win, spoiler alert, the biggest Academy Award for Emilia Perez at the Oscars. Best Supporting Actor is a lot easier. There is absolutely no indication that Kieran Culkin is not going to win. He has swept every major, as they call them, precursor to the Oscars. There's been no sign of slowing momentum. So even though I would vote for Guy Pearce in The Brutalist, who I thought was so good, and by the way, I thought Kieran Culkin was amazing as well, I'm predicting that Kieran Culkin is going to win the Academy Award. This has maybe my biggest confidence score of any race this year. If you're going to look out for one other nominee, I guess maybe it would be Edward Norton in A Complete Unknown, because a lot of people seem to really like that movie at the Academy. But I think Kieran Culkin is as close to a lock as you can get at the Oscars this year. On the other side, though, a race that I think is completely up in the air is the race for Best Actress. Right now, I think it is literally a 50-50 coin flip between Demi Moore and Mikey Madison. And this was the one that I thought about the most when I was trying to decide who I would pick to win. I have a very low degree of confidence here. I wouldn't be shocked for either Demi Moore or Mikey Madison to win, but I ultimately chose Demi Moore to walk away with Best Actress at this year's Academy Awards. In a really tough category, I think I would actually vote for Fernanda Torres. And remember, this is me saying that knowing that The Substance is my favorite movie from last year, but I thought that Fernanda Torres was incredible and I'm Still Here. So she would have my personal vote, and I think that she has maybe a 10 to 15% chance of winning, maybe. But Demi Moore and Mikey Madison really are the two that I think are in major contention. This is a pure gut call for me, but I think that because Demi Moore is a Hollywood veteran and because it was also a fantastic performance, it's not just the sentimental vote, I'm going with Demi Moore in this category. The Best Actor race was a lot easier for me to call. I'd personally vote for Adrien Brody. Adrien Brody has really, except for the Screen Actors Guild Award, walked away with most of the major precursors for the Oscars. However, Timothée Chalamet's win at SAG means he has to be the actor that I would say you have to look out for in this category, because he did win that and because the actors are such a big part of the Academy. Ralph Fiennes could sneak his way in there because it's a movie that the Academy really likes, and he is a well-respected actor. But I think that Adrien Brody's going to take it. I think that Chalamet is going to be lurking in the background. It wouldn't be a massive shock for me if Chalamet won, but it would be pretty surprising. Even given his SAG win, I think that Brody is the one to go here. And that takes us down to our last two categories, and we will start with Best Director. Maybe you've predicted this, but the director that I would vote for is Coralie Farge for The Substance, because a director's job is to manage tone, to manage the performances, to manage the look and the style of the film, both in pre-production, during production, and also in post-production. And I think that she did a stellar job in every phase. However, I'm predicting that Sean Baker is going to walk away with the win for Anora. He's a director, especially inside the Hollywood industry, who has been respected for a long time. I think a lot of people will say this is his time to shine, to be in the spotlight. Although I think you have to look out for Brady Corbet for The Brutalist, because that is also a very capital D directorial achievement this year. And some people might say that he's the director that put his most personal stamp on a movie. But Sean Baker, I think, is the one that's going to walk away with the Oscar. And now we get to the big one. Best Picture. Again, the day of nominations, most people would say, well, it looks like Emilia Perez is going to walk away with it. But I now actually think that Emilia Perez's chances of winning Best Picture are very, very small. It's really come down to, in my mind, three main contenders to win, which are The Brutalist, Anora, and Conclave. If I were the Academy, I would vote for The Substance. It's because it's the movie that I thought was the most outstanding in every aspect of filmmaking, from the performances to the sound design to the cinematography to the directing, everything. I thought it was the most effective movie of 2024. However, I think that Anora is going to win. I think it's going to be close. And really the tiebreaker here for me is the sheer number of Guild Awards, etc., that Anora has won. I've said this on the channel many, many times before, but if Anora does not win the Academy Award for Best Picture, it will join a club of only Brokeback Mountain as a movie that won at the Directors Guild, at the Producers Guild, and at the Writers Guild that has not gone on to win Best Picture. So in a very tight Best Picture race, I'm using that as the tiebreaker. But the movie I think you have to look out for here is Conclave, because the actors like Conclave. They gave it the Best Ensemble Award at the Screen Actors Guild Awards. It could be, remember that they vote for Best Picture on a preferential ballot system. It's the movie that I think could be number 2 or number 3 on most ballots, while the more divisive films like Anora and The Brutalist move up and down. It could win Best Picture by being kind of the least objectionable. It's almost like the whole process in the film that you see of trying to figure out who the next pope will be. Really, I think that the only way that the Academy can go wrong here is if they give Best Picture to Emilia Perez, because that will ignite such a firestorm of people saying, what the hell are you thinking? There were already problems with the movie coming out of the nominations. So many more other issues have arisen. There are so many other choices that I think are worthy. If the Academy gives it to Emilia Perez, well, let's just say that my recap of the Oscar show is going to be very interesting. So those are my picks for this year's Academy Awards. What do you think? What are you picking in all the major categories? Let me know down in the comments below, and stay tuned right here. Early Monday morning, I will have my full breakdown and reaction to the Academy Awards, who won, who didn't win, and of course the memorable moments that I'm sure will happen in between. So be sure to stay tuned for that. Hit the subscribe button, hit that bell so you know the second I put that video up. And of course, thank you for watching this prediction video. Until next time, stay safe, and I'll see you then. Bye.